Hello and welcome to Credit Chat Live. Now, this podcast is an extension of Experian's weekly Credit Chat conversation. This is a conversation where we take a deep dive into personal finance topics on X. And I'm your host, Christina Roman. I've been helping with Credit Chat for the better part of 10 years. And I'm excited that we have a familiar name and face on today's Credit Chat Live podcast. We have Anthony Weaver here joining us. Now, Anthony is a Baltimore native who has transformed his own experiences with financial struggles into a mission to empower others. Now, growing up on the East Side of Baltimore, he gained firsthand insight into the financial challenges many face and the mindset that often accompanies poverty. But instead of accepting financial hardship as a way of life, Anthony sought to change the narrative. Through his deep dive into personal finance, from books and courses to real-world experiences, he realized that money doesn't have to be complicated. Today, as the host of About That Wallet podcast, Anthony shares practical advice, powerful insights, and real-life strategies to help the sandwich generation, those balancing financial responsibilities for both their children and their aging parents, to achieve financial freedom. Get ready for an engaging conversation filled with wisdom, actionable tips, and inspiration as we dive into today's topic, mastering your money mindset, how your relationship with money shapes your future. Anthony, welcome to Credit Chat Live.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for that, Christina. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you here. Now, you've participated in several credit chats, and so I know we've gotten to work together several times. You've offered your expertise on a wide range of topics, which is why we felt that you would be a really great fit for this podcast. So we're excited that you jumped on that opportunity to be a part of it.
It's been a pleasure. I mean, it's always having a fun time.
Yeah. And what I love about these conversations is we get to connect with the public. We get to meet people where they are, and we get to share real financial advice with them and also actionable tips that they can take and hopefully incorporate in their everyday lives and in the financial habits that they are building for themselves. Now, I want to give our audience a little bit of a background on you, and I want to get started with your roots at Baltimore. So you grew up on the East Side and you experienced financial struggle firsthand. And I know that these types of struggles really lead to some hard-learned lessons. So what were some of the key money lessons, both good or bad, that shaped your early mindset about money?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if most people know, but as you know, having your financial understanding really starts off when you're around like age 8. And so during that time frame, growing up in Baltimore, like I didn't know that we were in a impoverished neighborhood. It's just that just looked around, everybody was going through the same things. Meaning like I used to play basketball, air quotes here, on a crate that was on a stick. I'll say the light pole usually. Somebody would just be tall enough and nail it up on the post, and we'll just play basketball in the back end. But one of the early understandings of finances back then that kind of stuck with me was that pretty much not to put all your eggs in one basket, but to continue on learning how to utilize your knowledge and utilize your skill sets to build relationships with the people that you have around you in order for you to kind of get ahead to that next level. So not to rob Peter to pay Paul, but more so like, hey, while you're shaking the hand with the right hand, shake your hand with the left hand of somebody else and actually build that relationship and bring those people together.
Yeah, that's really important. Just identifying how your community can help you to grow, understanding, networking and the different steps that it can take to get to the next level is so important.
So true, so true. Because you never know what's going to happen. And how you treat people is the way how they're going to look after you as well. Because a lot of the times
Yes.
the relationships go well beyond the finances.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's that Maya Angelou quote, right? People will never remember what you did, but they always remember how you made them feel. So it's important how we treat other people and helping our own community get to that next level.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so I like on your website and in your interviews how you talk about simplifying money. I think a lot of people think money and financial concepts are very difficult and they're maybe for other people to figure out, but not for themselves. So why do you think that financial struggles are common in communities where money is tight? And what are some of the steps that people can take to break free from financial struggle?
Well, here's the truth about money. Like most of us really aren't taught how to manage it, but we're actually expected to figure it out on our own. And what keep most people stuck is really they just can't find a way to break free. And one of the ways to do that is to first look in a reflection, or I call it the financial mirror. Take a look in the mirror of what is going on with your finances. Really open up those mailers. Do not ignore it. And because we tend to ignore, like, hey, it'll go away. Yes, I know that bill is there. Yes, I know I can pay the minimum. But really look at your holistic financial implication, as far as like what are the subscriptions you have? What are the things that you constantly buying on a whim? Where is your money going? And to really break through to that, you have to know what's going on. You have to be the CEO, or really the CFO of your expenses. You're making the money, so figure out where it's going. And the first step I would say is actually look in the mirror, figure out what's going on, write it down. And when you write it down, and if you have a family, because I usually focus on the sandwich generation, sit the family down and be like, hey, I noticed that we don't have a lot of money doing this, doing that. This is what's going on. This is what I'm seeing. We need to cut back on something. I just say like, hey, I noticed that you guys aren't really utilizing Hulu that much. Okay, well, we're going to cancel that subscription. I realized that we're not going to this particular grocery store that often, or we're not utilizing the big branded clubs or the box stores. Let's go down and cancel some of those subscriptions to kind of focus the money as a unit, to go back and finding our values of what do we really want as a family to move forward. And once you have that outlined and understand your values and everybody's on the same page in the household, it's a lot easier to move and navigate. And if you got to leave some wiggle room, because there's always going to be something that you want to splurge on or somebody want to do, this is where you can have that opportunity to kind of discuss, hey, let's have some money on the side, call it our slush fund, or our unexpected fund, or our fun fund. Just have something fun with it. Just create a little big account and throw money over there, because you never know. But one of the things is that you have to lay the foundations with your family and with your household, even if it's just you. Understand that you need to really take time out to focus on yourself.
Absolutely. I love that. I relate to that so much. Now, there's 2 points that you made there that I really want to touch on. That first one where you talked about how you had to learn about money through your own experiences, right? And that's something that I can relate to wholeheartedly. I made so many mistakes in my 20s that impacted my credit just because I didn't understand how money worked. Nobody taught me how credit worked. They only told me credit is bad, avoid credit. And of course, I was not going to do that. I was a 20-year-old, and I signed up for credit cards. I had access to more money than I'd ever had in my life, and I went shopping and I charged up those credit cards, and then I was scared to look at the bills in the mail. So I was that person that was avoiding the mail and only paying the minimums. But then one day I realized, okay, I have made a lot of mistakes and I need to get everything back on track. And I did exactly what you said. I sat down, I opened up all my mail, I compared all of my credit card statements, and I really took a hard look at, okay, it tells you on your credit card, if you only make your minimum payment, how long it's going to take you to pay that card off. I suggest that everybody that's only making your minimum payments look at those statements and see how long, because a lot of times it's going to take you 10 years or more, and it tells you how much you're going to end up paying over that 10-year period, and a lot of times it's a lot more than what you actually owe. So then I went and I made an actionable plan for how I was going to pay down my credit card debt, and I used a credit card calculator. But all of this, it was small steps that led to that empowerment, right? That led to help me to understand how to pay off credit card debt, to understand how paying off credit card debt impacted my financial future. And again, to your point, I became the CFO of my financial life.
hmm And
Now,
that's
oh, go
amazing.
ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that's amazing that you did it that way, because for me, I'm pretty old school. I like pen and paper. So, you know those old calendars that you get, or people usually have them out for like $1 or something like that. That has
Yeah.
like the landscapes or something.
Yeah.
Those, yeah, I love those, and that's how I got started with my journey on that. to keeping track of your finances is that you have to write it down and actually
Hmm.
visually see it. And so I used to keep that calendar up near my bed. And so every time I woke up or at the end of the day or the end of the week, I'll snatch it off the wall, write down and do my money track or map it out on the calendar. And that was one of the things that really helped me out. So to kind of bring that reflection to your way. So just another strategy besides if you don't want to use digital, you can still use the pen and paper, just kind of have it on a calendar setup.
Definitely, and I'm a fan of both. So I had
Yeah.
also a whiteboard in my kitchen where honestly everybody that came into my house could see it that had all of my bills there because I was being very transparent and honest about I'm on a debt payoff journey. Please do not come at me with a trip or some crazy expensive outing that you want to go on because here's everything that I owe and here's like where I'm at right now. So I would update it monthly after I made a payment. I would update it to what the current balance was. And I got so much gratification from seeing that the numbers go down and down and down. So I completely agree with that. And then another thing that you mentioned about sitting down and really looking at your finances. So I think over the years of responsible credit management, I kind of got a little bit lax with my budget. I didn't really have a budget for a little while. So at the beginning of 2025, I realized my savings is not where it needs to be, where I want it to be to feel comfortable for like an emergency, or like, God forbid the case of like job loss for myself or my husband or a significant health crisis. And so I sat down and I developed a budget. It took me a whole day. I sat down, I looked over the past months of expenses, and I identified, to your point, what are those subscriptions that I have that I never use? Where's my money going that I don't realize? So I looked at all of those impulse purchases that I made and I was like, what do I have to show for this? Because it was a really eye-opening experience for me. And I sat down with my husband and I showed him, okay, here's the budget. Here is what we get paid. Here is what we have at the end of it. And here is where we need to be. Like, this is what I want to save because by the end of the year, I want to have X amount saved. But it was a lot of introspection that went into this process and a lot of like um, come to Jesus moments, so to speak, of like, okay, Christina, you need to calm yourself down here. Yes, it is nice to be able to have things delivered next day from Amazon, but we need to identify if it really is a necessity.
Yeah, and I'm curious on what did your husband have to say about that? I'm not sorry, like the reverse interview, but what did he say?
Yeah, no problem. So my husband was he was shocked at like how much money we spend, but he was completely on board. And then it was funny because I asked him a couple days ago because we went through our first full month of budgeting in January, right? I said, "How do you feel about this budget?" Because I challenged him one weekend to do a no spend weekend, so it was where we couldn't spend any money. We didn't eat out. We found free activities to do as a family, and that's something that we haven't done since like we were first dating when we like were both trying to build our careers. And it was a shocker to him because we're so used to like on a Friday night ordering pizza or going to the movies, going out, going shopping, whatever. And what he honestly told me was money is the number one cause of divorce. And he said, I want us to be on a strong financial footing. So if that means that we've got to adhere to this budget, great, let's do it. So he was 100% on board with me.
Yeah, that is amazing. Usually I would say yes, finances is the number one cause of divorce, but can you think about it as more so a communication thing? When you look at it
Absolutely.
deeper, because though you might say like you're on a track, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do the budget thing and I'm full 100%. But if he's not listening and he's not receptive and he wasn't actually on board on where you wanted to go, is it time for him to jump ship? Like, because like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do for my life and for us, and you're not trying to be part of that. So I think you either you get on board or you can just stay on the you go on a little jet ski or whatever. I'm
Yeah.
going. So
Yeah, no, he was 100% on board with it because, um, we have a vision for where we want to go with our life, and we're not going to get there if we're stealing from our future for fun now, right? Like I kept telling him, we have benefits to our job where, like bonuses come in or tax windfalls come in, and they always go toward paying something off, and I'm like, what, we could be using that to plan a vacation, or we could be using that to build an emergency fund. Instead it goes to pay for things that we've paid ourselves, or we've taken advantage of now, and we're not going to even appreciate it when it comes time to completely pay it all off, so I think explaining it to him that way really made him see, okay, yeah, we do need to do this, and we need to both be on the same page. And so we're both working again toward tackling credit card debt. I think
there you go.
somebody I talked to on a previous podcast said that your financial health and credit card debt, it's a lifelong journey.
Yep.
You charge it, you pay it off, you charge it, you pay it off, and a lot of people are going through it, so it's nothing to feel ashamed about. I work for Experian. I talk about credit. I have credit card debt and that I am paying off. But what's important is to understand that you need to pay it off, that you need to keep your utilization low, and then also making those on-time payments. So one of my biggest problems in my 20s was that I would miss a lot of payments, and I would make it up, the next month, but at that point it had already been reported to the credit bureaus, so it was already negatively impacting me. So having that understanding has made sure that I've stayed on top of all of my payments and making sure that I'm always paying them off. I pay them off regularly, but yes, it is common to have credit card debt, and it is okay if you're on that debt payoff journey.
And it does feel like we are running that financial treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
And for some of the people, I mean, for the person that's listening to this right now, you might be in that same boat. You just feel like you're constantly paying it off, you charging it, you paying it off. And you be like, man, is there other things in life besides just paying my bills? Like, there are other options. And obviously, because this is for educational purposes only, we are just providing you with different strategies that you can actually utilize based on our experiences. And because that you've made it this far doesn't mean that you can't go even further. Just
Yes.
continue on listening and enjoy the show because we have so much more to offer.
Absolutely. And I was actually doing some research on this because I try to also identify, why do people tend to charge credit cards? A lot of times they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they're using their credit cards as a crutch. And I actually found that according to a 2023 survey from Payroll, that 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So I wanted to ask you, like, what are some small but impactful steps that these consumers who are living paycheck to paycheck can take to really start moving out of that cycle toward financial stability?
Yes. If you find yourself living paycheck to paycheck, that is one of two things. So one of the rules that I really love is the 50-30-10-10 rule, which means that there's 50% of the amount is actually utilized to your needs, 30% is utilized to like your everyday expenses, then there's 10% for your savings, and then 10% for your investing. And the reason why I love that particular rule is because it actually provides stability, and it's almost like a zero based budgeting. You given everything a name, everything has a place in your budget and in your life, and you actually know where it's going at. Because we talked about having that financial mirror, like, hey, we knew where things were going. Now we're actually taking control of our finances. We telling it what we wanted to go, where we wanted to go, and hey, we was like, hey, money, we know that you've been lonely for some time. It's time to go make your own friends because I'm tired of you paying all my bills. I want you to go make some more friends, and that's where the investment time comes in, and really making sure that you're prioritizing paying yourself first. I know, like some people who tithe, they tithe the 10%. Okay, that's okay. You can actually tithe yourself 10%. How about that? You can pay yourself 10%, use the other 10% for tithing, and then you can figure out what you want to do with the other funds. But that is one of the things that you do want to take in account is that you got to put yourself first. You can enjoy your life and still build wealth during this process without feeling overwhelmed. All you have to do is take time out, which is step one. We already told you, figure out, look at what's going on. Step two is now you actually start taking advantage of what you have and actually give it a home.
I love that. And I love that that's going to require somebody to really look again at their whole financial picture and understand where their money is going. And to your point, give it a job, give it, a task. Okay, you are going to grow for me and you're going to grow in this account. I know one of the things that I challenged myself this year was to bump up my retirement savings to 10%.
There you
Kind of to
go.
your point, pay yourself first, right? So pay that 10% toward my future. And when I saw my first paycheck with that 10%, I was like, ugh, gut check, okay. Like, but you know what? But that's okay. That's okay because I know that it's going toward my future and it's going to grow in the account that it's at. So that's great. And if I had that extra money, what would I probably do with it? I would probably do it to enjoy an activity right now. But this is something that I'm promising my future self. So I like that you made that point as well.
Yeah, and I also want to add in like the 10% doesn't have to be all financial either. Like when it comes to investing in yourself, because listening to this podcast right now is actually you're investing into your future, you're investing in your education. And then you can even look at different books that you decide to purchase. Are you looking into investing in your friends? Are your friends looking into different environments? Are you actually even adopting a a non-scarcity mindset, more of an abundance mindset? So these are the things you have to talk about, well, think about as you're going forward. Is how am I showing up in abundance instead of in the scarcity?
Yes, absolutely. I love this approach, and I like that it's about really building momentum. And you touched on something, and that's the mindset that you have, right? The mindset with which you manage money. So, how important is behavior and mindset when it comes to building wealth? And are there daily habits that you swear by or that you live by that can help to kind of rewire how you think about money?
Yes. So you can budget all day. We can go up and down. Like how you say it took you all day to do your budget, right? But if your mindset is off, your money will be too. And also the relationships and the boundaries are part of that process. So, like you said, when you have your budget up on your refrigerator so everybody can see it, or in your kitchen, you're already setting the boundary with your friends and family, being like, hey, y'all see it. I ain't got it. Don't invite me. Like, you already set the tone.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about being open about it, minded about it, that's the beautiful thing. One of the rules that I live by to kind of keep me going, I call it the bike method. I'm coining it, so please don't steal it if anybody's doing it. But out of the way, steal it if you go for it. The reason why I like the bike method, it starts with B, which is the budgeting side of the house. I is the income. K is the knowledge. E is the execution. So the B, you know how to budget. We already just talked about how you can budget, look in the mirror, get everything together. Now we know how, now that we've done that, now we have to start looking at our income. How can we increase our income? Either do we work overtime? Do we get a second job? Do we put other people in the house get some jobs? How are you actually increasing your income? Because you can help pay off your budget, pay off your debts, and so forth. Then you also got to gain knowledge. And by gaining knowledge, you listening to this podcast, listen to other podcasts, you listening to your friends, and you keep an open mindset. Now, E is the final part, which I would love, is the execution part. This is where you actually got to take everything you put together and start taking action. Either if you want to go ahead on and take that trip, you can take the trip without feeling guilty about it because you took the action ahead of time, you built the foundation, and you're having a great time with your family. And that's what I want for everybody that's listening to this show. And the cool thing about a bike is that if you ever fall off, you can get right back on it and start pedaling again. It is something that you can always do, and this is the reason why I live by this method.
Absolutely. I think you really got something there. Everything that you explained, it was so clear and it just makes so much sense. And I like, to your point, you fall off your bike, you get right back on. You have all the tools necessary to get riding again. I think that's fantastic. And I can't wait to see what you do with that. You better trademark that, Anthony.
Thanks.
Um, all right, so we've talked about how little shifts in your behaviors really make a difference over time. And you've talked to our audience directly throughout this podcast, which I really love. For anybody that is confused about where they should start, or they're feeling overwhelmed about their finances, what are some simple actionable steps that they could take today to get started on the road to gaining control of their finances?
Okay, so let's be real for a second. At the end of the day, money isn't magic. It's just math. It has no feelings. You tell it whatever you want it to do. So the first move that somebody should make is today to turn things around. Is really just write it down. Take your feelings out of it. Remove yourself and just really look at the numbers, saying like, "Hey, if you don't have it, cut it. Remove all your feelings. So yes, this is a hobby. Cut the hobby. Cut everything out. Go minimum." A lot of us can play defense. I call this the defense side of it. So that's one of the things that I want to say. It's like get as defensive as you need to be. Once you build that defense up, start working on your offense, which is now you're looking at different ways to make income, different ways to leverage your network, different ways to get inside the rooms that you were left out of before. So that's where I would say start.
Absolutely. And I love how you talked about taking the emotion out of it, because we can be so hard on ourselves. We are often our own worst critic, and especially when it comes to money. So understanding that these are numbers and you can change it and you can take control of it at any point, but it's going to take action and it's going to take consistency. It's going to take limiting yourself a little bit, cutting out the things that maybe you previously enjoyed for a while until you can get everything under control, until you can begin to grow your money. And then maybe you could take those things on again. But for now, it's going down to the bare bones and really taking control of it. I love how you talked about that. That's really important.
Definitely.
All right. Now, Anthony has shared so many fantastic nuggets throughout this conversation. It's been really a fun and incredible conversation to have. Your insights are valuable, and I know that our listeners are really going to walk away feeling more empowered to take control of their money. Before we end this conversation, I'm doing a new little segment here called a rapid fire segment, and I want to ask you just a couple of quick questions. So, what is the best piece of financial wisdom you've ever received?
Which is to pay yourself first. I used to think that it meant just saving money, but it really means prioritizing your future before anything else. Because if you don't, who else will, right?
Absolutely. What's one money habit that you swear by?
This is a good one. Automating my savings.
Yes.
That's one of the things I love to do.
Absolutely. Okay. What is the biggest financial myth that you think needs to be busted?
You need to be rich to invest. You can just start
I
with
love that.
$5. Yeah.
I love that. Absolutely. That's something that I'm learning about right now. So you said that K, knowledge, on your bike acronym, that is me right now. I'm trying to learn about investing. Now, for my last rapid fire question, what is your favorite money related book or podcast?
Of course, I got a shout out about that wallet podcast. So I got to do that first. But when it comes to books, uh, there are several books. So the main one is The Richest Man in Babylon because it talks about paying yourself first. But another one is The Atomic Habit,
Yes.
or that is such a great book. And then the one that Charles Duhigg did is The Power of Habit. So I would say check out those 3 books and you'll be on your way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you for being here and for everything that you do to help people navigate their financial journeys. Definitely check out About That Wallet. I'm sure you're going to learn so much more. Anthony was so personable and fun to talk to today. And I just know that if you subscribe to that podcast and you start listening to it, you're definitely going to be well on your way to taking control of your finances. Before we wrap up, can you just quickly let our listeners know where they can learn more about you?
Yes, you can follow me on all the social media platforms at About That Wallet. And you can even check out my website at aboutthatwallet.com.
Awesome. All very easy. And I'm sure you'll see Anthony chatting with us in future credit chats. If you have availability, join us on Wednesdays at 12 o'clock Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. We talk about a wide range of financial topics. And I'm sure you will learn something that's going to help you to take the steps to improve your financial health. Thank you so much, Anthony. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much, Christina. You have a good one.